Welcome to Trump Republican News. This is Jack Easum speaking. Today there's breaking news related to the DOJ investigation into Uranium One. The DOJ, that's the Department of Justice, has unsealed the indictment involving Uranium One scandal. This is the very first indictment. They've all been sealed, but now it's available in public. And the Department of Justice unsealed an 11-count indictment on Friday to former Department of Defense intelligence analyst turned uranium transportation executive who stands accused of a bribery and money laundering scheme involving a Russian nuclear official connected to the Uranium One deal. The indictment corroborates November report by The Hill that an FBI mole deeply embedded in the Russian uranium deal has gathered extensive evidence on the scheme. Indicted is Mark Lambert, he's 54 in Maryland, was charged with 1 count of conspiracy to violate the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and to commit wire fraud, 7 counts of violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, 2 counts of wire fraud, and 1 count of international promotion of money laundering. This is a very strange thing that's happened. Apparently Mark Lambert tried to bribe, allegedly, a Russian official named Vadim Mikarin, who is at an official Russian Techna NAB export, 10X it's called, a subsidiary of Russia's State Atomic Energy Corporation and the sole supplier an exporter of Russian Federation uranium and uranium enrichment services to nuclear power companies worldwide in order to secure the contracts with 10X. In other words, this transportation executive is charged with trying to bribe a Russian official to get the contracts to transport the uranium. Now, this is kind of interesting. This has been reported in a number of different places now. But he's former military. He served in Desert Storm and Desert Shield, came back and went to work for the Naval Intelligence, I believe it's naval, and it was subsequent to that he joined up with this uranium transportation company. These are very serious charges, but what makes this incredibly huge is the connection to so many other people in Washington, D.C. and the Beltway. For example, the Uranium One deal, I don't know how much you might know about it. It's one of those things that everybody kind of just assumes you know a lot about. But during the Obama administration, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, a deal happened. And the deal was to sell a company, which is part of Uranium One, to the Russian-owned Uranium One company. The easiest way to explain it is that Uranium One is a Canadian uranium mining company with its headquarters in Toronto, Ontario, but it has operations in Australia, Canada, Kazakhstan, South Africa, and the United States. In January 2013, Rosatom, the Russian state-owned uranium monopoly, through its subsidiary, Arms Uranium Holding, purchased the company at a value of $1.3 billion. The purchase of the company by Russian interests is, as of October 2017, under investigation by the United States House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. So as you can see, there were a number of transactions that were going on with this international company, but it's all related to uranium and the company Uranium One. So in the media, when you hear Uranium One, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about this Canadian company that has operations in various other countries that got purchased through a subsidiary of the Russians, the state-owned Russian uranium atomic operation. Now, there has been a congressional investigation going on with this, and since uranium's a strategic asset with national security implications, the acquisition of Uranium One by Rosatom was reviewed by the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States and a committee of 9 government agencies, including the United States Department of State, then headed by Hillary Clinton, and the voting members of the committee can object to such a transaction, but the final decision then rests with the president. Well, in April 2015, the New York Times wrote that during the acquisition, the family foundation of Uranium One's chairman made $2.35 million in donations to the Clinton Foundation. Let's say that again. In April 2015, during the acquisition, the family foundation of Uranium One's chairman made $2.35 million in donations to the Clinton Foundations. Now, the donations were legal, but not publicly disclosed by the Clinton Foundation, despite an agreement with the White House to disclose all contributors. In addition, a Russian investment bank with ties to the Kremlin and which was promoting Uranium One stock paid Bill Clinton $500,000 for a speech in Moscow shortly after the acquisition was announced. Several members of Clinton's State Department staff and officials from the Obama-era Department of Justice have said that the congressional reviews are handled by civil servants and that it would be unlikely that Clinton would have more than nominal involvement in her department signing off the acquisition. Well, that's still to be found out according to all the emails that are coming in. Okay. Well, the problem with some of the acquisitions that people started to identify kind of hit the fan. In October 2017, President Trump directed the U.S. Department of Justice to lift a gag order it had placed on a former FBI informant involved in the investigation. The DOJ released the informant from his non-disclosure agreement in October 2017, authorizing him to provide the leaders of the Senate Judiciary Committee, House Oversight Committee, and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence any information or documents he has concerning alleged corruption or bribery involving transactions in the uranium market, involving Rosatom, its subsidiary Tenex, and Uranium One, and the Clinton Foundation. Well, that's kind of self-explanatory that there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, but the news that I think is important, the first indictment in Uranium One has happened, and the individual that they're going after is a very low-level person involved in the transaction. But you can see with the swarm of activity around it, there's a whole lot of other things that have to be directed. And one of the things that's kind of related to this is that the Clinton Foundation is being investigated by the Department of Justice. 5 FBI offices are doing an investigation into the Clinton Foundation for corruption and pay to play. This is huge. This is huge because all the evidence that's being gathered now by the DOJ will be compared to the evidence being received by the various congressional committees. One of the leaders of the congressional committees receives a copy of every single FBI Form 302, which is the interview form when they interview people, so they can identify what's going on in terms of transactions. Boy, I don't know how this is going to play out, but it doesn't look good for the Clintons in any way, shape, or form. So that's the breaking news. It's huge. I think this week there'll be a lot of revelations coming out. And one of the things about these sealed secret indictments is the DOJ can put pressure on people to spill the beans, tell us what's out there. And one of the individuals that's involved in this is Mueller, the prosecutor, the special prosecutor. It's a well-known fact that he actually delivered uranium, from a airport tarmac. So this is going to be interesting to follow as we go along. Well, that's it for this show. And fellow Trump Republicans out there, until we meet again, just follow the words of Donald Trump. As he likes to say, keep moving forward, never, ever give up. God bless.